how one man built the most powerful empire of his age. Imagine waking up one morning and discovering that an army of horsemen has appeared on the horizon. They move faster than any army you've ever seen. They can fight while riding. They communicate across enormous distances. And behind them stands a leader who has united thousands of warriors who once fought each other. Within a few decades, these warriors would conquer territory stretching from China to Eastern Europe. Their leader was Genghis Khan. But here's the surprising part. Genghis Khan didn't begin as an emperor. He began as a boy who lost almost everything. So how did an abandoned child become the founder of the Mongol Empire? And how did a group of nomadic tribes build one of the largest empires the world had ever seen? This is the story of Genghis Khan and the Mongol Empire. Part 1. The Boy Who Lost Everything. Genghis Khan was born around 1162, although historians aren't completely certain of the exact year. His original name was Temüjin. He was born on the Mongolian steppe, a vast landscape where survival depended on horses, livestock, alliances, and military strength. Temüjin's father, Yasuge, was a tribal leader, but when Temüjin was still a child, everything changed. His father was poisoned by enemies, and suddenly his family was left abandoned. His father's followers deserted them. His family was left struggling to survive on their own. For a young boy growing up on the harsh steppe, this could have been the end. But Temüjin learned something that would later define his empire. Loyalty had to be earned. He experienced betrayal. He experienced hunger. He experienced political rivalry. And he learned how quickly power could disappear. These experiences shaped the man he would eventually become. As a young adult, Temüjin began building alliances. He didn't simply rely on his family name. He recruited followers based on loyalty and ability. And gradually, he began defeating rival tribes. But this wasn't just a military campaign. It was a struggle to unite a people who had spent generations fighting one another. Part 2. Uniting the Mongol tribes. The Mongolian steppe wasn't one unified country. It was divided among competing tribes and clans, and these groups frequently fought each other. Temüjin understood that if the Mongols continued fighting among themselves, they would remain vulnerable. So he began changing the rules. One of his most important ideas was rewarding loyalty and ability rather than simply giving power to members of the traditional aristocracy. A talented warrior could rise through the ranks, and soldiers were increasingly organized according to military units rather than only family relationships. This created a more disciplined force. Temüjin also understood something incredibly important. An army doesn't survive on weapons alone. It needs organization, it needs intelligence, it needs communication, and above all, it needs discipline. By 1206, Temüjin had defeated or absorbed many of his major rivals. That year, Mongol leaders gathered at a great assembly known as a Kurultai. There, Temüjin was proclaimed Genghis Khan. The meaning of the title is debated, but the event itself was enormous. A collection of rival steppe tribes had been transformed into a powerful political and military force, and now they had a single leader. But Genghis Khan wasn't satisfied with simply ruling Mongolia. He was about to turn his attention beyond the steppe. Part 4. The Mongol War Machine. So what made the Mongol army so effective? The answer wasn't simply that Mongol warriors were brutal. Their greatest advantage was mobility, organization, and strategy. The typical Mongol warrior was an expert horseman, and horses were central to Mongol warfare. A single warrior could maintain multiple horses and switch mounts during long journeys. This allowed Mongol forces to travel extraordinary distances. Imagine an army that doesn't depend on slow marching columns. Instead, thousands of mounted warriors can move rapidly across open terrain. Then there's the famous composite bow. Small compared with many Western bows, it was powerful and designed for mounted warfare. Mongol warriors could fire arrows while riding, and they could attack from different directions. One famous tactic was the feigned retreat. A Mongol force might appear to flee. The enemy, believing they had won, would chase them. But the retreat could be a trap.
Keep moving!
The Mongols would turn around, surround the pursuing army, and attack. It was psychological warfare as much as military strategy. And the Mongols weren't afraid to learn from their enemies. When they encountered skilled engineers, administrators, or siege specialists, they often incorporated their knowledge into the Mongol system. This became extremely important because the Mongols weren't just fighting nomadic tribes anymore. They were about to attack some of the greatest cities and civilizations in Asia. Part 4. The Conquest of China and Central Asia. Genghis Khan first expanded against neighboring powers. His armies attacked the Western Xia and later fought the Jin dynasty in northern China. But perhaps one of his most dramatic campaigns began against the Khwarezmian Empire in Central Asia. The conflict began after a trade and diplomatic dispute. A Mongol trade caravan was attacked. Then Mongol envoys were killed. Genghis Khan responded with a massive military campaign. Beginning around 1219, Mongol forces invaded the Khwarezmian Empire, and they moved with terrifying speed. Cities that appeared almost impossible to capture were attacked from multiple directions. The Mongols used siege engineers and intelligence networks. They also exploited divisions within their enemy's territory. One by one, major cities fell. The campaign demonstrated something the world had not fully understood yet. The Mongols weren't simply a powerful nomadic army. They had become an adaptable imperial machine. Their empire was expanding across enormous distances, and Genghis Khan was creating a system that could operate far beyond Mongolia. But the story was about to become even bigger. Part 5. The Mongols reach Europe. After Genghis Khan's death in 1227, the Mongol Empire did not collapse. Instead, his successors continued expanding it. His sons and grandsons pushed Mongol power deeper into Asia, the Middle East, and Europe. One of the most famous campaigns came under Batu Khan, a grandson of Genghis Khan. Mongol armies moved into Eastern Europe. They defeated forces in parts of modern Russia, Poland, and Hungary. For European rulers, the Mongols seemed almost unstoppable, and there was a terrifying reason. The Mongol army could appear unexpectedly, strike rapidly, and disappear before an enemy could reorganize. Their empire eventually stretched across an enormous portion of Eurasia. At its greatest extent, the Mongol Empire covered roughly 24 million square kilometers. That made it the largest contiguous land empire in recorded history. Think about that for a moment. From the Pacific coast of Asia to the borders of Europe, enormous territories were connected under Mongol rule. But conquering an empire was one thing, keeping it together was another. Part 6. Part 6. The surprising side of Mongol rule. When people hear Mongol Empire, they often think only of destruction. And there is no question that Mongol conquests could be extraordinarily violent. Entire cities suffered catastrophic losses. But the Mongol Empire also created something historians sometimes describe as a period of increased connectivity across Eurasia. Once large portions of the continent were under Mongol control, merchants, diplomats, travelers, and ideas could move across enormous distances. Trade routes became increasingly connected. The Mongols also relied heavily on administrators and specialists from the civilizations they conquered. They adopted technologies, military techniques, and administrative practices from different peoples, and they developed systems for communication across the empire. One interesting example was the Yam, a relay network using stations and fresh horses. Messengers could travel much faster by changing horses along the route. This helped the rulers of the empire communicate across enormous distances. The Mongols also showed a degree of religious tolerance that was unusual for some medieval empires. Different religious communities could exist within Mongol territories, although policies varied by ruler and region. So the Mongol Empire was not simply a story of destruction, it was also a story of connection, adaptation, trade, and cultural exchange. And that makes its history much more complicated and much more fascinating. Part 8. The death of Genghis Khan. In 1227, Genghis Khan died. The exact circumstances remain uncertain, but his empire did not die with him. His successors continued expanding it. His sons and grandsons eventually established major Mongol states across Eurasia. These included the Golden Horde, the Chagatai Khanate, the Il Khanate, and the Yuan dynasty in China under his grandson Kublai Khan. But there was a problem. The larger the empire became, the harder it was to govern as one unified state. Different branches of the ruling family developed their own interests. Political conflicts increased, and eventually the once unified Mongol Empire fragmented into several major khanates. The empire that Genghis Khan had built would never again exist as one unified political entity in the same way. Part 8. The legacy of Genghis Khan. So what should we remember about Genghis Khan? Was he a brilliant military genius, a ruthless conqueror, a political revolutionary? The uncomfortable answer is, he was all of these things. His conquests caused enormous suffering and death, but he also created a political system that transformed Eurasia. He reorganized tribes into a powerful military structure. He promoted people partly on loyalty and ability. He used intelligence, communication, mobility, and psychological warfare on an extraordinary scale, and his successors continued expanding the empire long after his death. The Mongol Empire changed trade routes, it changed political borders, it connected distant regions, and it left an enormous mark on the history of Asia and Europe. Perhaps the most remarkable part of the story is where it began. Not in a grand palace, not in a wealthy kingdom, but on the Mongolian steppe with a boy named Temüjin, who had lost almost everything. Genghis Khan's story reminds us that history is rarely simple. A man can be both a brilliant strategist and a devastating conqueror. An empire can destroy cities while also connecting civilizations, and a small group of nomadic tribes became one of the most powerful forces the medieval world had ever seen. The Mongol Empire eventually fragmented, but its impact never disappeared. Its story still shapes how we understand warfare, empire, trade, and the history of Eurasia. If you enjoyed this journey through the rise of Genghis Khan and the Mongol Empire, hit the like button and subscribe to World History Vault for more stories hidden inside history. And tell me in the comments, was Genghis Khan history's greatest military strategist or one of its most ruthless conquerors?